Welcome to the Starting Here podcast.
Oh my god.
No way.
Hi, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Elijah.
And I'm Tiffany.
So today we're doing a manga review on the manga Goodnight Punpun. So I know in Japan it's really big. It's one of the top rated manga of all time. So we have all 7 volumes and we've read them over the last couple months. So this is kind of just our thoughts and our takes on it.
Yes, it's going to contain some spoiler warnings as well as some trigger warnings because this book covers a lot. It covers murder, rape, assault, suicide ideations, sex, I guess some teenagers too, because that's comes in part of it.
Yeah. So,
fairs.
but yeah, spoiler warning. So if you haven't read the series, we're going to be covering from start to finish. So just throw that out there.
So we recommend that you go and read it yourself and then come listen to this podcast. But if you're curious about what goes on throughout it, we're more than happy to tell. It is a bit of a sad manga.
Yeah, it's definitely compared to other ones for sure. It's kind of like it's a slice of life. Mm-hmm. It's just about this Punpun, his daily life, And
yeah.
It tracks over, from him being maybe 8 years old to 28 or something.
Oh, so, yeah. We see him grow from being a child to a teen, young adult, and then
a full adult. Yeah,
full adult. We see it all.
Yeah, it's kind of just about his life, There's no action or anything crazy. It's just his life.
And it really is a sad life because it started out, he's a young boy, probably 8, elementary age. He has friends.
Well, let's talk about each manga first. We'll just go through each volume.
Okay.
So the first one, one thing I really like is the art style. So he's this weird little doodle, a little bird creature.
I like the doodle of him. He's really cute.
I think that's my favorite one out of all of them. The first one where he's this little bird creature.
Yeah, and he's very tiny too. So it's cute seeing a small version of him, and he has these cute little features. He makes cute little faces, and a lot of his faces represent his moods of how he's feeling. Sometimes he's insecure. Sometimes he wants to be isolated. But in the first manga, we see pretty much...
It starts out, he's a child.
Yeah.
And it covers... So he's, in school and stuff. And I think near the start of it is the whole thing with his parents.
Yes.
So it kind of starts off that basically his dad beat his mom. Mm-hmm. And the dad gets sent to jail, and he gets a restraining order.
Yeah,
so
and then
the dad's out of the picture from the get-go.
And then he gets sent to America, doesn't he? He gets sent to a different country.
I don't think he does. I think he just lied.
He lied. Okay.
Yeah, he was just because he doesn't ever tell Punpun that really he was he went to jail and all that. So he just says.
Yeah, it's crazy because when you first see the dad, you think of him as this nice fella. He's always taking care of Punpun and everything, And then that stuff happens with his mom, and it comes out left field too. It's what? Punpun wakes up and he just sees his mom lying on the floor. Yeah, and the dad practically standing over her,
and the whole house is trashed and stuff.
And then mom's in the hospital too because she got badly injured.
Yeah.
So the dad gets sent away. The mom's in the hospital. So the mom's brother, I think his name's pronounced Yuchi. He comes in to pretty much raise Punpun temporarily. With
the mom, and he's kind of a father figure to Punpun throughout the series.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a father, older brother.
Yeah.
He's kind of he's not there to raise him, but he's there to give him guidance.
Yeah, and Punpun really looks up to him. Everything, how he prays, he learned from his uncle, and he starts out with prayer Tinkle Hoy.
Yeah, Tinkle Hoy.
Yeah, Tinkle Tinkle Hoy.
Yeah.
And I guess his uncle told it to him when he was drunk, and the uncle's like, why are you praying like that? And he's like, because you told me to start saying Tinkle Tinkle Hoy.
Yeah, that's how he talks to God. And God will come down and be like, Punpun, what are you doing?
Yeah. And so Punpun, at a young age, he's exposed to, domestic violence, to pretty much a bad family life.
But he's really a child, so he doesn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, he doesn't
understand.
Most of the first
book.
Exactly. So with him, I think it's a bit he's just kind of going through life. He's going through school. He's not really understanding what's happening, but just that it happened. And then, as he's in school, he meets this girl named Akiko.
Yeah, that's really where the series starts. He falls madly in love. Is it Akiko?
I think her name's Akiko. It's Aiko. I think that's how you say it, Akiko. I don't know, to be honest.
Akko.
Oh, it might be Akko. It might be Akko. Okay. I can't pronounce.
But so, yes, he's madly in love with her. And, he's not in puberty yet, but he's old enough to have a crush.
Yeah.
So they're kind of not dating. Well, dating as like a child, like
they're very crushes on each other, pretty much. Because really with him and his friends, they all talk about sex. They try to get porno magazines and everything.
They go on little adventures and stuff.
Yeah, one thing that really surprised me about this book is that it shows a child pretty much wanking one off. Just thinking about Akiko.
Yeah.
Or Akio. And so
yeah,
So it's very weird to see that. It's disturbing, kind of. But he pretty much is in love with her, and
she likes him too.
Yeah,
because I think she thinks that he's different from the other kids.
Yeah,
she noticed that he's a bit more timid, and and really, if you think about it, they come from the same kind of background.
A very similar background, because
you find out in this one that her mom is
a scam artist.
Yeah, and really, it's not that the mom's just kind of crazy. She's following this kind of religious cult.
Yes.
In the later books, her selling that water is still from that cult.
Yeah, it's a cult with it's purified water or something, and they're trying to sell a bottle of water for $20. And of course they're selling it, and this is what happens is that they try to sell it to Punpun's uncle, and he's all like, I'm not buying to your scam, lady. And Punpun goes to the door and sees that it's Akio and her mother there. So of course, Akio gets embarrassed by this, because she didn't be part of her mom's scams, and she runs off, and Punpun's like, oh no, it's no big deal. So I feel like the reason why they gravitate to each other is because they kind of have trauma bonding with each other. They gravitate towards each other because they're kind of only happiness in each other's lives right now. Everything's meek. They're parented by bitter, disappointing parents.
Basically, they're both being raised by a single mom who is
self-centered.
Well, just crazy.
Yeah,
I think
self-centered
both of
crazy.
their moms are off the rockers. Which you kind of see right here that her mom is crazy. You don't really learn that Punpun's mom is crazy. Well, you kind of do. She kind of just comes off as really rude, but you find out near the end that she really is kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, really the first one, I think the climax of the story is she tells Punpun, hey, let's run away together.
Yeah.
You're not happy with your dang mom. I'm not happy with my dang mom.
Let's run away.
Yeah, let's go. And I forget where they try to go to, but it's somewhere decently far away. Yeah. And so they're like, Punpun's like, how are we gonna get over there?
I think they try to raise money, don't they?
I don't remember.
I can't remember, but
yeah, they're trying to go, and then I'm pretty sure does Punpun end up moving the day they're supposed to leave? Is that what happens?
I think it happens in another chapter.
Well, why doesn't he end up going then?
Oh, I can't remember. That's a good question.
I want to think that's what happened. I want to think the mom moved houses the day that they're supposed to run away, and so Akko feels like he betrayed her. She's like, dang, I thought we were ride or die. I thought we were about to run away together, and then he doesn't even show up.
Was it because of that, or was it because he was scared that he didn't want to leave?
It could have been that one.
I think it's because he was too scared to leave.
Yeah, but she tells him, she's like, hey, if you ever lie to me or betray me again, I'm gonna kill you, Punpun. And I think she was just saying that was really jacked.
Yeah, because they tried to meet one time and it didn't work out, and then they met a second time. He was just too scared to leave at that point.
Yeah.
He didn't know how it was gonna work after that. He tried to really kind of think this through. I mean, not fully. He was still a child thinking this, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he just got scared because they're still in that same house in that first one.
So that's basically the first one. It kind of just sets up him and Akko, they're just love relationship, and it just kind of ends on that sour note of they end up not running away together. Even though they're children, I wouldn't expect them to run away,
Exactly, yeah.
So the second one, it features I a decent amount about the uncle. The uncle has like a big part of the second manga. So.
And it's kind of a disturbing background that he has. We kind of see the mom in the hospital now, and the nurse that's attending to him, you'll later find out more about her. But we see her again. We see this nurse that's trying to help her, and the mom, she's going through it. She's kind of like, I don't know why I can't die. Like, what's my life living? I lived a worthless life. I'm not happy with it. I settled when I shouldn't have. I had a child I didn't want. That's kind of what she's going through. The mom really is more thinking about herself. So he was trying to vent to this nurse, this nurse actually becomes a huge part of the manga later on. But of course, we're seeing the uncle take care of Punpun again. And the uncle, he's already going through his own battles. He's really not fit to take care of Punpun. And really, he has a lot of darkness to him. I think one thing that really gets him is that, he can't really hold down a relationship. He was in a relationship for like 7 years, and they broke up because she wanted to get married, he didn't. And as he's venting to this nurse, who, she actually works at a cafe. This
they kind of hit
nurse.
it off.
They hit it off.
They hit it off, and then they start kind of having a thing together. So the uncle's like getting back in the groove of getting his lady.
Yeah, and the uncle's telling this nurse, pretty much. But
he's scared for the relationship because in his last relationship, something bad happened, which wasn't necessarily his fault, but kind of his fault, and it kind of just scarred him.
Well, I think the reason why is because, he was with that girl for 7 years, and then he was what, like a ceramics teacher?
Yeah, so he's teaching like pottery classes, like in his several years before, and he's dating this girl. He thought he was gonna marry her, all that kind of stuff, and this other girl at the ceramics class.
It was actually one of his students' daughters, like a teenage daughter, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so...
Like, she was young.
I think...
Was she of age?
Well, in Japan, they have younger...
Maybe, but either way, she was very young. I don't know if she was or was not of age.
I think in Japan she would have been, but for us, it was like, I don't know, I don't think so. But I think the mom was like hitting on the uncle.
Yeah, everyone loved the uncle. All the women wanted the uncle.
The mom wanted to get the uncle, but she was like bringing her daughter because she's like, oh, like, she'll like me more because I'm bringing my beautiful daughter and stuff.
Yes, and
well, yeah, he ends up basically cheating on his girlfriend with this dang daughter.
Young kid. Yeah. And the uncle. He's a bit sus because, he tries to do things with her, but then the girlfriend comes home, so he goes and immediately hides the girl in the closet because he's so scared to death that this girlfriend just walked in on him, almost screwing this teenage girl. And so she's in his closet. He ends up banging his girlfriend. His girlfriend's like, how come you haven't married me yet? They start talking about it. Well, they screw, and he's like, I love you, and this teenage girl's like, oh my god, my heart's broken. And I don't know what, but she hires someone to try to put a hit on her own mom.
No, she's basically... Okay, she is trying to get someone to kill her mom, basically. She was trying to basically get in the uncle's head so he would do it. Because she basically wanted to kill her mom and then run away because she was just like, I don't know, she was just psychotic or something.
Yeah, we really never know why she wanted
ended up banging one of the other ceramics teacher, and he did follow through, and he ends up killing the mom.
No, he didn't kill her, but he badly burned her. Like, it was a bad accident. I think she lived. The mom lived.
I didn't burn her. He, freaking hit her with a hammer in the
head. That's right. He did hit her. He did hit her. No, I don't think she died. I don't think she died, no.
Okay, well, that was a whole thing. Wait, did the girl die then?
No, I don't think no one died. No,
What about the guy? Did the ceramics teacher kill himself?
I think the other ceramics teacher might have killed himself over it.
Okay, yeah. So the ceramics, and so he just feels guilty because he's like, dude, this old lady got her head bashed in. This other ceramic teacher killed himself. And then I cheated on my girlfriend who I thought I was gonna marry. And then he ends up telling her, which that whole relationship gets ruined. Yeah. So he just doesn't want to do relationships. So going out with this nurse, he feels really bad.
Yeah, he's not really ready to commit. He wants to talk to her. He enjoys it. Because he's already going through a lot of his depression. He keeps talking to a lawyer and everything, and he wants to enjoy her company, but he has so much commitment issues, and he had commitment issues with his previous girlfriend, but he for some reason he can't allow himself to really be with someone. But he does date her. And it's a bit it's a bit odd what he's going through. He's
Yeah.
went through a lot. And so, he's also another bitter parent raising Punpun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's kind of also, like, going through, like, depression because of it. Like, there was, like, he's, like, tries to kill himself, like, once or twice.
Yeah.
But...
And that's why he always drinks a lot.
Well, like, the girlfriend kind of saves him. The girlfriend's like, hey, like, if you're really going through this, like, just lean on me. I'll help you.
Yeah.
Just don't kill yourself. Like, that's all I ask. Like,
exactly.
So, the only other... So, there is a time skip. And I think it's... How much? Like,
I think, like, a year or two.
Yeah, it's not
It's
super
a short
long.
time skip.
I was thinking, like, 3.
Yeah, it might be 3 years.
So, I don't think they're in middle school. They were in elementary, and I think they're in middle school.
Yeah.
So the other big thing is, so he hasn't seen Aiko in all these years. He just like,
and he keeps thinking about her. He can't get over his elementary school crush. Even in his middle school years,
he's not necessarily avoiding her either.
No,
he just can't find her. He just doesn't. He's never seen her again in these last couple of years.
And then when he does, he's kind of scared to talk. Because he for some reason just absolutely loves her, and I think it's because they trauma bonded with each other. They both came from similar past lives of being raised by bitter, disappointing parents, never having anyone really care for them. So I think they were each other's just a spark of happiness. Because Punpun never really is happy. He never is. He gets little sparks, like, he's doing good, he's growing, but he'll go be knocked down a few notches. And Akiki is the only thing he keeps going because that's the only thing he remembers of being happy. Yeah. So I feel like that's why he always gravitated towards Akiko. Because really, there's nothing special about her. There's no reason for him to keep going all his life trying to find her.
Yeah. So, like, in this one, he finally finds her after all these years, and he's very ecstatic, but then he finds out that she has a boyfriend, and his heart drops, and he's like, oh my gosh.
And her boyfriend's a great athlete, too.
He was in the tennis club, so was Punpun, and... basically, he's about to go to, like, the nationals or something. Mm-hmm. Well, I think he tells...
They pretty much make a bet.
Yeah, he tells her, basically, if he loses, that she should break up with him and then go out with Punpun.
Yeah.
But if he wins, then...
they're together forever.
Yeah, then they're together forever.
But I don't think
it's like a very middle school thing to say.
But I don't think he tells her that.
No.
I think he told Punpun that. Because him and Punpun had a thing. Yeah, the boyfriend.
Oh, that's right. He tells
the boyfriend told Punpun, if I win, you never see her again, she's mine.
Yes, because he tells the boyfriend he wants to be with her.
Yeah, and then if you win, you get her, and I will break up with her. Because, Kiyo doesn't know about this bet at all. So it's between him and Punpun. It definitely is, like you said, a middle school thing. And, they're still young children, but Punpun just can't help himself. He's going to go to this tennis tournament. He's going to win her heart back. And he is just going to have her forever. Because that's his own source of happiness. He's pretty much, he idolizes her. She's his rock. So that's all he wants is for his happiness back.
I think he ends up winning the tournament, but...
No, he doesn't. He broke his ankle last match.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the boyfriend broke his ankle last match. And so the boyfriend pretty much said to Punpun, I lost so you could have her. But Punpun, he feels bad about that. He's like, it wasn't a fair win. Like, you got hurt. It wasn't fair. So that was pretty much how Volume 2 went down.
Yeah. Volume 2, there wasn't a ton to Punpun's story. It was more the uncles, I felt like.
It definitely was more the uncles.
A good chunk was, like, the uncle's backstory and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. It really was.
So, in Volume 4... 3. There's another time skip, I believe.
It's a short one.
Yeah, maybe just like a year or two. Starting things off, the girlfriend, the nurse from the second book that's dating the uncle, ends up sleeping with Punpun. So yeah, the uncle ends up leaving because he's having a depression episode again.
Yeah, and he's
kind of going crazy.
And he's scared of commitment, and so he just kind of dips for a minute.
Yeah.
So we're all kind of like, well, what? Where the hell is he? And so the girlfriend, of course,
sleeps with Punpun.
She's one day she's trying to confide in Punpun, and I guess it leads to her wanting to screw him. So she pretty much kind of rapes him because Punpun doesn't want that. Punpun doesn't want to sleep with her at all. She kind of forces him to, get hard and everything, and she screws him. And, Punpun's obviously sad about that. Punpun's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So pretty much...
I think he lost his virginity right there, too.
No, he did.
So he kind of has mixed feelings, because I think part of him really did want to lose his virginity, and he has been very just, like, really wanting to do something. Mm-hmm. So he was, like, kind of excited, and he kind of liked that part, but then the other part was like, well...
He didn't want to do it with her.
Yeah, this is my uncle's girlfriend.
Yeah.
It would have been ideal if it was... And he also kind of like Aiko, so he's like... he hasn't seen her all this time and never talked to her. He's like, I still want it to be her. Like,
and I feel like a part of him thinks he probably cheated on her, too.
I think that, too. I think he does feel like he cheated on Aiko. Like, even though he's barely talked to her, I think he's like, no, I betrayed Aiko.
Because he really wanted to save himself for the person he wanted. And I think that's how everyone feels. So he really got robbed of that chance. And and Punpun his entire time, like from volume 1 to 3, he thinks about sex constantly. He thinks about...
Well, he's like a boy
young,
kind of going through puberty and stuff. So, like, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have the mom. And the mom... So she's, like, in and out of the hospital throughout the books, kind of. Mainly because she's just crazy, honestly.
She is crazy.
She ends up hurting herself. She gets sent to the hospital. Well, the
reason why she hurts herself, though, is because she was sleeping with a married man, and she was trying to get this man to leave his wife for her.
And he's like,
no, like, I see you as a friend, we have fun. We don't need to do all that. Because obviously, he's not going to leave his wife for her. Yeah. So she gets pissed, goes batshit crazy, kind of swings his knife around, and she pretty much kind of jabs it to the side of her throat.
Yeah.
Which leads her to having to go to the hospital.
Yeah. So... while she's in the hospital, she ends up meeting one of Punpun's childhood friends, which Punpun doesn't know this, and neither does the mom, really. Yeah. Only the reader knows that it's Punpun's old friend.
And you only really know this if you go back and kind of look at it, because I didn't realize until we kind of look back at this chapter right here that we're looking at right now, I didn't realize that was his friend until just now. I was like, oh, that's his childhood friend.
Well, I mean, he's like the only character with glasses, really.
True, but I for some reason, I just didn't put two and two together, so I was kind of surprised by that.
The mom drops a bombshell to the friend, though. Mm-hmm. She says that the dad was a great person, really. That he ended up, actually, he didn't beat her, and he didn't destroy the apartment or the house that day. That she was the one that did it, and she hurt herself, and she got him sent to prison and got a restraining order from him for Punpun just because she's crazy. Yeah. Which, to me, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, this lady can literally die at this point. Like, that is such an awful thing to do.
It's absolutely horrible. She robbed Punpun of probably the only person that could have helped him through any of this. The reason why I think Punpun had such a horrible life is because he was parented by people who had horrible lives, who were selfish. She pretty much took away that one chance Punpun had of actually having a parental figure help and guide him. And that was pretty sick to me. So really, and the fact that she even, it comes out to that, I'm not really surprised by how she acted, but it's still horrible that she'd be okay with doing that.
Yeah. Well, luckily, she dies very shortly after. She has to do surgery on her, and it doesn't go well, and then she passes away.
And really, it's a great thing. But before she passes away, that friend that she was talking to, she ends up developing feelings for this kid at the same age as Punpun. For a kid in probably, middle, early high school?
I think she's just kind of a sick human being.
She is. And this kid, he's in the hospital because his girlfriend got hurt. And she was kind of badly disfigured, so he's worried about her. She's over here trying to put moves on this young boy.
She's also, I feel like she doesn't love herself. So the one person that's talking to her, she's, developing feelings for him.
Yeah. And I think one thing we kind of mentioned, we left out from volumes 1 to 3 is that his mom is just very selfish. She always thinks about herself.
She doesn't really care about Punpun.
No, and anytime Punpun has a horrible time, anytime he's in moody or anytime he doesn't want to speak to her, she's like, oh, why is he in a bad mood? Why can't he ever be happy? Yeah. She never actually stops to ask him what's wrong. She just kind of is like, oh, he's just in a bad mood. I don't know why he's in such a bad mood. She never tries to help him. And that to me is just like, you're really just neglecting your child. You know, you're never asking him what he feels, how he thinks. It's always about you. So when she did die, I was really happy about that, you know. Of course, her brother's a bit sad about it. Punpun really doesn't have any emotion towards it. Because, of course, you know, he's raised pretty much by a narcissist. So he's kind of like just going through it. Like, this is another time of day. Like, you know, he lost his dad already. You know, and I think it's the thing that Punpun never realizes, because he never hears this, you know, is that his dad was actually a great dad. Because the mom never told him what happened. Now, of course, on her deathbed, she says that she's scared of dying, that she loves him. Punpun really isn't affected by that.
Yeah.
You know, and really, she goes to the grave robbing him of a dad. And that, I think that's the worst thing that could have happened to him, is the fact that his dad got ripped away, and he thinks his dad is just this bad person that just left.
Honestly, he doesn't think that. So, Punpun never finds out that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, he never finds out.
Well, like, not even, like, he doesn't know that he went to prison or anything. Like, really, Punpun doesn't know that. What Punpun was told was his dad got a job far away and had to leave.
Yeah, but
he basically just thinks that his dad just left him to go work or, like, play baseball overseas.
I'm pretty sure his dad does know that he went to prison for a short amount of time.
No, I don't think he does.
I think the uncle's like, your dad's gone for a little bit. Okay, maybe he didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the reader, because he was a child at the start. It was kind of like the reader was like, oh, he has to go away because he beat him. Because we don't even know that it was the mom that did it until, like, the fourth one.
But, you know, she died knowing he was completely innocent and that she pretty much robbed him of a dad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So,
and that's the worst part about it.
Honestly, though, none of them really cared that the mom died. Like, Punpun was kind of like...
It's whatever.
Yeah, like, he was like, he really didn't have a lot of feelings for her dying. He was kind of like... Yeah. Maybe it's just because she wasn't a great mom. He was just kind of like...
I think he already had mixed emotions about his mom and his parents in general, his family. And I think this is happening. He was kind of just trying to figure out, like, what really was going on. You know, I don't really know if he even knew how to feel at that point.
Yeah.
You know, of course, the uncle, he was sad. That's his sister. But even his uncle was all like, you know, your mom's just selfish. And he always knew that about the mom, too. So I think her dying in was the greatest thing that could have happened.
So after this, Punpun meets a girl by chance, and her two friends. Mm-hmm. So she invites him to go to, like, this art gallery that her friend's in and stuff. And I mean, they're still, like, young, so, like, it's not like a big deal. But Punpun's like, oh my gosh, I'm going on a date, you know, like, with a girl. Mm-hmm. And so they go on there, and it's funny though because he's thinking about
Akiko the entire time.
Yeah, Akko.
Akko. Yeah, the entire time they're at the event, you know, he sees this
painting,
big painting
in all the painting, and it's like kind of like this abstract Starry Night type thing.
Yeah, it's this
and it makes
galaxy.
him think of her.
Yeah, he instantly thinks of her. You know, he goes back to that place where he was happy, and you know, of course, the one who painted that is his friend's older sister, Sacho. I think that's how you say her name, Sachio or something like that. But anyways, she painted the painting, and she's talking to Punpun about how he thinks about it, like what he sees in the painting. Yeah. And he tells her, you know, what he thinks, and she's kind of
he writes like kind of like a poem, I think, about Akko, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this love poem, and she's kind of the older sister who's like the artist is kind of impressed by it. She's like, wow, like this is like pretty deep, like this love story, and like it really didn't even relate to the painting somehow. So she was like, wow, this is like kind of, I don't know where this is coming from.
But I think that's one thing she also did think is that, you know, art is to what people think of it as.
Yeah.
You know, and so she pretty much was like, you know, I like that you had such a deep thought about it. You know, no one really did.
She doesn't really say that to him right there.
No, but she does think that though. She does think, you know, it was a really deep thought.
Later on, she tells him that. But so Punpun and the friend kind of I think like the two sisters, they're like trying to hook Punpun up, so they're like, oh, y'all would just go have fun or whatever. Well, Punpun tries to slide through, and the girl's like, no, like that's not happening.
Yeah,
you know?
I think at the time she wasn't. I think maybe older in high school or even a young adult. Sachio?
No, Sachio? But this is like, I'm talking about the other girl.
Which one? Oh,
That
yes.
one.
Yeah, I thought you meant Sachio. My bad. I was not paying attention. Yeah.
No, remember, that's the one he goes on a date with and stuff.
Yes,
this girl.
the little sister. Yes,
Yeah,
I do remember that.
So he's like trying to slide through on her, and she's like, that's the one he's going on the date with, but she's kind of like, look, that's happening way too fast. Like, I thought you were just kind of like a cool guy.
Well, isn't he trying to smash or something?
Yeah, he's trying to smash, and she's like, maybe down the road, but like, we can't just like hang out, you know, like, so that ends up basically not working out. And
yeah, she's kind of like, Punpun, you're a creep.
Yeah, and that kind of ends that volume because Punpun's like, dang.
Yeah, you're
that's it. I didn't get none.
Yeah. I feel for Punpun. I really do feel for him. You know, but at the same time, just like, Punpun, you can't do that on the first date now.
Yeah. So in the next one, I think there's another slight time skip. And so Punpun is in high school now. He's kind of moved out. Well, he got like a job, like kind of like a convenience store job or something. Like something like doesn't pay a whole lot, but he got a real crappy apartment. So he's kind of just like trying to be an adult now.
Yeah,
you know?
And now that his mom's gone, he really just doesn't want to intrude on his uncle and, you know, his fiance pretty much. He don't want to intrude on them. So he wants to leave. He wants to have his own freedom, finally.
Yeah.
And so he goes to his apartment. It's kind of run down little crappy apartment, but it, you know, very cheap. And the owner of the apartment is a really nice little man. Like, he's so sweet. I love
really
him.
Trying to help Punpun out and stuff.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters, I think. Like, he's so sweet.
Near the start of it, though, he sees Eiko again.
He does.
It just gets, he catches a glimpse of her, and that's enough to just drive him crazy, which is hilarious. Because, like, they don't talk, they don't do anything. He's just walking, and he sees her, and then he ends up going into, like, a depression for, like, a couple weeks where he can't get out of bed because he's like, oh my gosh, I saw her, and I'm probably never going to see her again.
Yes.
So he's, like, going crazy in his head.
And the funny thing is that for a normal person, you have a crush in elementary school, but you probably don't think about that crush in high school or your early adult years. You probably don't even think of that person. And he constantly thinks about her throughout this entire manga.
Yes, he's like madly in love with her.
He just thinks, you know, she's the absolute world. She's the best thing that could happen to him. Because at that time, he was really happy with her. When all his life was going to shit, he was so happy with her.
Yeah.
And so he sees her and he's just like, she's back. When am I going to see her again?
So the apartment owner tries to help Punpun out. He notices Punpun's depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, hey, let's go out for a drink, you know? So they go to this bar, and he meets the artist girl from a few years prior, right?
Yeah.
The one that did that painting, the Starry Night type thing that made him have these feelings and stuff, and
she's a bit grown now. She's in her early...
They're both, like, in high school.
Well, I think she's in her early 20s, and he might be in high school still.
Yeah, he might... Okay, so, yeah, he might be 18, she might be 20.
Yeah.
Something like that. So,
And, of course, she got prettier, too.
Yeah, she's a lot prettier now and stuff. And Punpun's, like... She has this thing for Punpun, like, off the bat. Like, she is, like, very...
Yeah.
Because those
because of the poem.
This poem that he wrote, like, really... made her think. She she was like, man, like, this guy must have something special about him.
Yes.
To be able to write something that special.
And she was so intrigued by how he thought, too. Like, she thought, you know, how he would think, that's what she wanted. You know, she wanted someone that could express how they felt, you know. But Punpun, he has a hard time doing that. And so in the volume 4, you see him become more of a triangle. Because he's really lost. He's, you know, he doesn't know what to do. He wants something to make him feel alive, because he's been so depressed throughout, you know, volume 1 through 4 that he just doesn't feel himself anymore. And so, you know, him and I think her name's like Sachio. I can't really pronounce it. Sachi, yeah.
They honestly they kind of hit it off and stuff.
Do.
But she is really good match for him, because
she's a great match.
She's also a little bit weird. Like,
she kind of has her own problem with being...
It's not that. She just accepts Punpun.
She does.
Punpun, he's a little bit creepy. He's very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, like, okay with it. Like, I think, like, the first time, like, after the bar or whatever, they go back and, like, Punpun's, like, trying to smash. No, he's not trying to smash, but, like, he's, like, thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So he's acting all weird.
Yeah.
And he ends up telling her that. Like, she's like, why are you acting so weird? And he tells her that, and she's like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you think that,
For sure. And she's also the type of person that's very, she accepts everyone, but she does her own thing. She thinks for herself, and she kind of also is like Punpun's uncle, who kind of blocks off certain parts of themselves. Like, when it comes to relationship-wise, she will kind of block off herself a bit, but she does want to open up. And so,
so they start dating.
They do.
They get pretty serious. They date for a while, honestly.
They do. And then they start the manga.
Yeah, well, she wants to become a manga artist and stuff, so she's like, Punpun, you should write the story. She wrote that poem. The thing is, Punpun don't know nothing about writing no manga.
Yeah.
So it ends up sucking. And she's like, just keep trying, which doesn't end up going anywhere. But
and they keep going to the same editor that she kind of is trying to get her manga published with. And the editor is kind of like, this isn't it. So, of course, Punpun's over there kind of like showing off this, like, oh my god, please, type of. It's kind of like a weird little vibe. He's kind of like trying to be all happy and everything, he's kind of like, oh, fuck my life. But she, she's trying to do her best to get this manga published. It's a really crappy manga they write. And she had him write and everything, and she did pretty much all of it, and it just didn't go through. So she, of course, becomes more secluded. She feels like she kind of let Punpun down. For some reason, she doesn't want to communicate more with Punpun.
But they're kind of in love, though. Like,
they are in love.
They're very serious. Like, they date for a long time.
They do,
like,
but she's also a lot like the uncle. She has problems with commitment. And when that happened, she probably felt like she let Punpun down to the point where she couldn't, accept the failure, and she didn't want to Punpun feel like it was, his fault. So she kind of just isolated herself from him, and he's upset by it. He doesn't understand what's going on. It's a lot of a mess. She's a lot like the uncle, and he's just he's going through it.
Yeah, but I think they're good for each other. Honestly.
I think they are too, because really, Punpun is the type of person that he will not let no one go.
Is it this one or the next one they get an apartment together? I think they end up living together at some point.
I think they do too.
Yeah.
So in volume 5,
Five? Yeah. Basically, him and Sachi, they're still hitting it on strong and stuff.
Yeah, the editor didn't really go good, so they're kind of at this point where, she's kind of backing off a bit because of it.
The main story kind of hits off, so Punpun decides to get his driver's license.
Yes, Punpun does.
Yeah, I think he kind of thinks that's, like, an adult thing. Like, Punpun's, like, he's on his own, he's working, he's, like, trying to get my license. Well, he goes to get his license, and guess who he sees?
Of course. His one true love he's had since elementary school, Akio.
Yeah, so he starts acting real weird because he's like, what do I do? Like, he's sitting next to her, they're in this class and whatnot.
Yeah, and right now, Punpun and Sachio, they aren't really together.
I think they're together, but they're just not as close as they were previously. Like, not that they're taking a break or anything, they're just like, she needs to focus on her stuff, and Punpun's like a little bit depressed, so they're just kind of like playing it by ear or whatever.
Yeah,
but Punpun, there's this friend of his that's also doing the driver's license thing that he's basically cheating on Sachi with.
Yes.
And Akko is like, is that your girlfriend? He's like, no, like, I don't even know her. Like,
yeah, he did say that. And of course, Akio is all like, oh, I have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to talk to each other, and of course he's a bit depressed when he hears that. But he's so happy that he got a chance to reunite with her finally.
Yes.
He's so happy about that.
So they're doing this driver's ed class together, and he basically asks her, hey, like, let's go on a date. He doesn't say let's go on a date, but he's like, let's go hang out after next time.
He definitely insinuates it. That's for sure.
And so she tells him that she has a boyfriend. And I think he tells her that he has a girlfriend, or something. So they're like, well, we'll just go as friends. Like, just go hang out, go walk around and stuff, And at the end of it, he tries to sleep with her. And she's like, this is not how I envisioned us meeting up again.
Yes.
Like, Punpun, always thought you were this good person, and you're kind of just a pig. You're trying to sleep with me like that, you know?
Yeah, and I can't blame her, because as a girl, you don't want to do that on the first date. I mean, it's okay if you do, but, she's kind of like, it's been a while since I've seen you, this is weird.
Yeah. Well, he ends up seeing her again not too long later, and he's like, I have to tell her the truth. So he tells her, he's like, look, because he kind of puts him up front when he first meets her.
Oh, of
and
course.
she does too, which is kind of interesting. So he's like, oh, I'm this cool guy, like I have a cool job and all that.
Yeah, and of course she became a model, so
yeah,
she's all like,
oh, I'm a model.
Yeah.
You know? Well, he tells her, he's like, look, I really have nothing going for me. Mm-hmm. And I think about you constantly, and I'm madly in love with you. She's like, same. I don't have a boyfriend. I'm not a model, really. And I've honestly been madly in love with you since I was a kid as well.
Yeah, and with her, she kind of feels like she did something wrong with her career choices, because she really did it all for money. She did it to kind of escape her home life, which is understandable, because her mom, I guess she says is psycho in this volume. So she's just trying to get away from her own life, just as Punpun's trying to get away from his. And I think that's what kind of brings them together, is that, again, trauma bond.
Yeah. So after they kind of like confess their feelings, I'm pretty sure they end up sleeping together, maybe.
I think, yeah, because they end up sleeping together, and she's a virgin.
Yeah.
She's a virgin, and so Punpun took her virginity.
But she still lives with her mom, and her mom is very abusive. She gives her a black eye for being late coming home.
Oh, yeah, and, her mom's so big into the cult that she's in. And, her mom's also disabled, so she feels like Akiko should be helping her with everything.
Yeah.
And, and she's all like, I shouldn't be doing that. I should have my own life. I love you to death, but I shouldn't. But
wait,
I shouldn't be. She's, she's saying it to her about her mom, because, her mom, she kind of is like, her mom wants her to do her own bidding, Her mom wants, her to take care of her to be the great, pretty much caretaker. And she doesn't want to be that, because she wants to be a young adult. She wants to live her life, and her mom's really holding her back from that. So she made bad career choices that she regrets, and she just wants to escape that. So she goes to Punpun again, and they have this trauma bond once again.
It really ends, though. They're laying there, and she's like, I don't care. Like, I'm happy. You know? As long as I'm with you, like, that's what I've always wanted. Mm-hmm. So as long as you stay with me, I don't care if my mom beats me, I don't care if I have a crappy job.
Yeah.
We can just live crappy lives together. That's kind of how it ends. So it ends kind of on this happy note of, like, they finally get back together, even though they don't have a great situation they're in, they're in love,
Yeah. But I think the worst thing about it, though, is that they really don't have a relationship other than the trauma they go through, their personal lives, and sex, They really just don't know each other. And it's kind of this spiral mess. But, Punpun does take her virginity, and it leads off, And then they end up saying, let's run away. Let's go to the same city we saw about going at when we were children. Let's just go there. Let's go ahead and run away. We're adults now. Yeah. So they're going to go ahead and talk to the mom now at this point.
So... yeah, the next volume starts, and they like, hey, let's go. Well, actually, Punpun is the one that suggested.
Yeah, in volume 6.
Hey, before we run away, you should tell your mom goodbye.
Yeah.
And she's like, I really don't want to, because I don't think it's going to end well, but we can.
But I think the reason why Punpun did that is because he didn't really get closure with his mom. So I think he wanted, Aki to get closure with her mom. And, and with that in volume 6 is that her mom, she doesn't want Akia to leave. She's kind of like, you're crazy. I don't care who this man is. So,
yeah, they go to the mom, and...
the mom's fucking psycho.
The mom is psycho. The mom's like, yeah, you're not leaving. I'm literally going to... She starts strangling Akia and, like, punching her and beating her, and is like... you really think you're gonna leave me? Like, there's no chance. Like, she's like, I'm just gonna kill you. That way you can never leave.
And she does try to kill her. It's insane.
Like, she's genuinely trying to kill her own daughter.
Yes.
Well, Punpun...
he's shook by it.
She pulls out a knife. Does she end up stabbing Punpun or like slight cutting him or something. I feel like she cuts him.
He does something, and he's stunned by it for a second, and he's seeing all this go down, and he doesn't know how to react because the mom just try to attack him.
Oh no! She pulls out a knife and she stabs Akko.
She does,
and that's Punpun's like, I have to do something. So he like pulls her
well,
off.
I think the mom had pushed him though because he was stunned from it. Because he was in the corner of the wall.
Yeah, well, he's like, what is going on? Like, this is not how it's supposed to go down. So he ends up choking the mom, like literally strangling her to death.
Yeah,
and
then he blacks out from it too.
Yeah, he kind of like
the adrenaline I think got to him too much, and all the fear and excitement at that point.
So now they're just sitting there, and the mom is dead. Literally dead body there. So they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? We just committed murder.
And they're there for a while. They're just kind of thinking, like, what are the options? Like, do we tell the police? Do we just leave?
They decided to leave. They just go on the run.
They decide to leave.
I think they leave them on there. I think they just leave her. They roll her up in the car and just leave her there.
And they take her car, too. They stole
they take the car, and then they're basically just on the run.
Yeah.
The most of this volume is them
on the lam.
Yeah, they're just traveling across Japan, and they are going through all of these emotions of committing murder.
And they're so distraught by it. They both are so distraught. And for some reason, I think what's really funny is that, like, the mom's disabled. Apparently, she's kind of crippled. She can't really walk, but she has a car. So I think it's kind of funny. But anyways, they pretty much... There is a doorman that comes and delivers, I think, like, milk or water to her or something. And they take it. Like, Punpun accepts it, and the delivery man doesn't think nothing of it. But pretty much after that, they decide they're not going to go to police. They do want to run because they don't know what to do. They're, they're young
just
kids.
Run away. So, most of it's them on the run and stuff. But
and they're both kind of losing their minds.
They really are. They're losing their minds, but their love interest becomes very conflicted at this point because they're kind of blaming each other for the situation. Punpun's like, I just murdered someone, and I'm probably going to go to prison because of the stupid girl that I'm in love with. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
She's like, this dude just murdered my mom.
Oh, 100%.
Or, like, how can I love this guy, actually?
And they really... And in this volume 6, you see Punpun become this absolute monster.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely in a dark place in this one.
Yeah, it's kind of... It's weird because they end up going to a convenience store, and he sees Sachi's manga.
I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think Punpun is also very scared. So he doesn't... He's scared that someone is going to somehow know what happened.
Yes.
So he's like... he ends up basically beating up some dude, right?
Well, I think the reason why is because they go to that convenience store. He is a bit skittish at that time because of all this just happening.
Yeah.
And he sees Sachi's manga that got published after he left.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's very happy for her. But then he talks to this guy that's right beside him looking at the same manga. And he asks this guy, he's like, hey, how do you feel about this manga? And he's kind of like, oh, I think it's kind of a crappy manga, really. And I think it's really kind of pisses off Punpun because he's like, no, Sachi's a great person. But he doesn't tell him that. But he's like, no, she is. And, like, how dare you say that? So he kind of follows this guy out of a convenience store. And, the guy's like, hey, what's up? Like, why are you following me?
He's, beating the crap out of him.
He beats him almost to death. And so here comes Akia running out like, Punpun, stop.
Yeah. There's some weird stuff that happens. So, like, Akka at one point, like, stabs him in the eye with a fork.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, you're the one that did this to me. And she basically tries to, like, make him go blind. And he loses eyesight in that eye, I'm pretty sure. Because, I mean, for the remainder, you don't see him with that eye. Like, he has a little eye patch on it and stuff. So, she stabs him in the eye. They're both kind of contemplating suicide, and Punpun does end up attempting to kill her. And
it's
like,
scary.
He's in love with her still, but he's like, this is your fault. So he gets like some kind of rope or something, puts her on her neck, and just starts strangling her to death. And she's like, look, hey, like, I'm sorry, like, this isn't supposed to go this way. And he kind of realizes that he can't kill her.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, Akio's now contemplating maybe going to the police about this. Maybe just turning herself in, because she then confesses to him that after he passed out, she ended up stabbing the mom several times. And that's how she actually died, because she stabbed her, not because of Punpun strangling her.
Well, she tells him that Well, Punpun is guilty because he thinks he killed the mom.
Yes.
And she tells him, hey, you didn't kill her. I killed her.
Yes.
So you shouldn't feel guilty. And that's kind of also why he doesn't kill her, because he kind of, like, stops. He's like, oh, my gosh, like, this is your fault then. Mm-hmm. So, like, you should go to the police. I don't really care, you know?
Yeah.
Which he ends up kind of changing his mind because he's like, I still love you. I don't want you to go to jail. Like, I'll take the blame for it, regardless.
And of course at this time, Akio's still wounded by that stab wound. So they can't go to the hospital either. So
they end up both getting badly hurt, like, multiple times. Like,
yeah.
I think she tries to stab him at one point too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she stabs him in the next one. We can just go to the next one though. She stabs him in the shoulder, like, so he's got like a stab wound. In Volume 7. She's got a stab wound. He's missing an eye. She has a black eye. She's missing a tooth. She's been strangled. Like, they're both very beaten up. Like, they look like something very bad happened to them. And they're just getting across the country. Like, they're just traveling.
And
they ditched the car. They're taking taxis. They're walking across the country.
And they're very cautious of anyone they meet. Like, the taxi driver, they decide to not pay him. When he gets to the convenience store, they decide to leave because they're like, okay, he's been there too long. He's probably calling the police. Because at this time, the news is already reporting that the mother's dead and that their prime suspect right now is her daughter, Akio. Yeah. So everything's going to shit. Akio hears this and is like, oh my god.
After that happened, though, after he almost killed her, she's honestly kind of terrified of Punpun.
She is.
She thinks, like, if I really don't watch myself, he is probably going to kill me.
And she loves him still, but she is terrified.
That's the worst part.
It's weird.
They still love each other. Like, after they try to kill each other, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I love you and stuff.
It's so weird. And they obviously, they still trust each other even after all that. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then we see in the beginning of Volume 7 that she's still really badly injured from the stab wound and everything else. And she's weak at this point. And so Punpun's kind of like, should we just go to the hospital?
Yeah. It basically, kind of the whole ending of it is she tells him, hey, I'm going to go report myself tomorrow when we wake up.
And they're already injured. And for some reason, he feels like at the time when they're in the woods, let's go ahead and smash. So he smashes her in the woods. Well,
they end up smashing, like, a number of times while they're on the run.
They do. It's like, what the fuck?
They're, like, trying to murder each other. And then they're like, okay, actually, let's just have sex.
Yeah, I love you. Let's just have... Yeah, it's weird. Mm-hmm. But she gets to the point when she's really badly injured, and they want to go meet her uncle that lives in the city that they've been trying to go to. Because he's a doctor.
I think she's done with running. She says, hey, I'm going to turn myself in. Don't worry about it. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, and they take a nap together. And then when Punpun wakes up, he tries to find her, and he finds her hanged. She killed herself over it.
She hung herself from the rope so she didn't have to do anything.
And really, I kind of think she really hung herself over the guilt of all of it.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, I do too. Punpun, kind of weird. He ends up carrying her body for several miles.
Yeah, like he for some reason,
takes her down. Yeah. And he puts on her back, and then he, like, I feel like he's still, like, very traumatized. Like, he's in such shock, he doesn't know what's going on, so he just ends up picking her up and then just walking for, like, miles.
Yeah, and
he's like,
to a phone booth even, and he tries to call the police, but then he's like, oh, wrong number,
and then he keeps walking.
Yeah.
And then he just ditches the body. He just basically drops it off, and then
these two young couple, they come in, they're probably a high school age couple, they come in, they see Punpun sitting right next to Akiko's dead body, and I guess his kids live there or something, but he was like, hey, we've been traveling for a while, we just need to rest. He's like, my friend really needs rest. She hasn't slept in a while, even though she's dead at this point. These kids don't know that. So he's like, can you watch her for a second? I'm going to go to the phone booth again and call for someone.
Yeah.
And so the kids watch her. They're like, okay, we'll keep an eye out and everything. And he just leaves. He goes back to his hometown.
So ultimately, he goes to the hospital, all that kind of stuff. He ends up getting arrested. And Sachi ended up having his kid previously, right before he goes to be with Akko. She tells him she's pregnant, and so he gets out of the hospital, or I guess go to the jail, whatever. So now it kind of ends up, he moves on. It basically, after all of these years, he finally moved on from Akko. Mm-hmm. He's gonna stay with Sachi. He's gonna raise his kid. live a normal life and stuff like that. And he
Yeah.
even says at the end, he says that his biggest regret was not running away when they were kids together.
Yeah.
But he says, I'm going to forget about you now.
Yeah.
He's like, you have basically held a grasp on my life, my whole life, and now you don't, because you're basically dead. So
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty twisted, but, like, before he decided to run away with Akio as adulthood, Sachi comes to him and is like, I'm pregnant. She lies and says that it's her ex's, but it's Punpun's. And so she's like, Punpun, we go meet, get abortion. So the day she's supposed to get abortion, he leaves with Akio, and all this happens. So Sachi's pregnant. She doesn't want to terminate now. And he is, he went through all of it. And when he went back to the city after she died, he talked to God again, because he has this whole messed up relationship with what he thinks is his God. And so he stabs out his eye that it was already stabbed by Akio.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the hospital because of that, because Sachi ends up finding him. So as he's in the hospital, Sachi's pretty much taking care of him, going through all of it every single day until he wakes up. Then after a day and a half of him being in the hospital, he wakes up, sees her. She's then going to give, she said what she was there for and who was all there for him and all that. And then she goes ahead and waits. Well, then she hears police detectives coming in. I guess the police talk to the nurse, and the nurse points into Sachi, and they're like, hey, do you know Punpun?
Yeah.
And I guess they tell what all happened. And so then they go to Punpun's like, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
So pretty much there's another time skip with it, because as this time goes, I guess this is a holiday in Japan, and that's when he pretty much says to Akio, like, everything they went through and how he loves her, but now he's able to let her go.
Yeah.
And we see that he did go through probation, that he had some sort of probation, so he did get in trouble for something.
Yeah.
It never really says how long he served, how long his probation was.
It couldn't have been that long, because his kid was only...
His kid was probably maybe 3.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it wasn't too long. Maybe 5 max.
yeah.
So
when we see him again, he's sitting on a bench with, I guess his friends had a high school reunion or something.
Yeah.
And the same friend who had a high school reunion was also the same friend that the mom was trying to get with.
Yeah.
That his mom was trying to get with.
What do you think overall about Punpun?
Well, before we get to that part, I do want to say that when he met with his high school friend who the mom was trying to bang, they were talking a bit. It was like all the friends from high school pretty much knew what happened to Punpun. And so they didn't, the friend kind of mentioned that, if he was married to Sachi, because, Sachi came to him with a 3-year-old little girl, and he was holding this little girl and everything. But, of course, Punpun's like, no, but the friend also knows he's probably not telling everything, and that he also just want to mention the scar on his left eye from when he tried to gouge his own eye.
I think he's missing an eye.
I think so. I think he said a scar or something, so maybe he's not missing an eye, maybe he's blind or something.
Yeah.
But he's definitely disfigured.
Yeah.
And so the friend kind of goes his own way. And you see Punpun at the end with all his friends and family. And, of course, now his own daughter. And he sees his friend go on. And his friend is, I guess, a teacher or something. And now you see in the very end of that, a whole new schools coming in. And kids that are thinking about sex again, how he thought about it as a child.
Yeah, it kind of...
So you see a repeat of things.
Yeah, these new set of kids that are kind of in the same scenario as the first book.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then in Volume 7, you see that his uncle and his uncle's wife had a baby too.
Yeah.
So everything kind of tied back at the end, and he went on his own way. I think he was a bit sad to see his friend go and all that, because their lives are pretty much over. They're now in adulthood. They have responsibilities. And so you pretty much see it end like that. But overall, I thought it was a sad series, but I thought it was great too at the same time.
Yeah. I think the art is phenomenal.
Oh, it's great.
I think that compared to other mangas I've read, that the art is top tier. The artist does the whole Punpun style is very unique, where he's like this weird little creature thing.
Like a bird.
And he changes throughout the series. In each book, he's like shifting, and like near the end, he's got horns, he's got multiple eyes coming out, but he has this little doodle,
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything else is highly detailed.
And what I like about the Volume 7 is that when he was on the hospital bed, Sachi showed him a picture that her younger sister had drawn. It was like a bird-like figure, like how Punpun's represented. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was cute. And what I really do? I really kind of hate...
to himself.
Yeah, it was really cute. And what I really hate is that we never saw what any of the characters actually looked like. Because the mom, she looked like the bird figure. No one, really didn't... You saw figures of their eyes and mouth and stuff. We didn't really see what they looked like.
I think that's kind of the point of it.
Yeah.
It makes the character, it makes him more relatable.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you put a face to him, you're like, oh, that's Punpun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's supposed to be a very
Yeah.
relatable story because there is depression that he goes through and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, and it is a very sad story, kind
It
of,
is. But it was a great story overall, and the ending was a lot better than I expected. I thought, I thought he would kill himself.
We both expected one of them to die, if not both of them to die.
Yeah, I thought both of them would die for sure. I thought it was going to end crappy. But really, I'm sad that Akio died because she was going through it.
And honestly, I feel bad for her because she really didn't deserve any of that.
She didn't.
Her life was never good, and then it never got better.
And what I really hate...
She had a much worse life than Punpun, honestly.
Oh, yeah. And what I really hate was the fact that, they just... When they first killed the mom, they should have went to the police and claimed it as self-harm. Or self-defense.
Yeah.
They should have done that. And maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe they could have had a happy life. But really, I don't think they could have had a happy life either way of how it happened. Because they were only together through trauma bonds. That's all it was. They had no relationship other sides, their trauma and sex.
Yeah.
That's it.
So what would you rate it out of 10?
I rated definitely a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
It was a great book. It was really sad to see this character go through pretty much a shit life and then see him connect with other people who don't really have great lives either, except for, Sachi. She had a decent life,
Yeah.
But it was...
I would rate it 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I wish he would have gone a little bit crazier at the end of it. I think either he could have said him and Eiko somehow made it out, they changed their names or something, and they end up getting married and having kids. I think he could have gone full out that, they did it, they are in love or whatever. Or he could have gone really dark and said they killed each other.
Well,
and it could have ended that way. It could have ended very good or very dark. And I feel like he went with an in-between where it kind of just ends. And I feel like I'm going to take a half a point off for that. I think he could have done a little bit more with the ending.
But I'm also happy that it didn't end with them two being together because he does have a child with Sachi. So if they had left with each other, then that child would be like, oh, well, who's my dad? So it's like he would never have known his own daughter.
Dude, it's not about the child. It's about Eiko.
I mean, again, it's not... Okay,
it's about her, okay?
With Punpun, it definitely is.
That's the whole point of the story. It's about her.
And, I mean, if these kids had just gone help, it would probably have been so much better. But, their lives are horrible. And to be honest, I think the character I'm mostly sad for is the dad. I'm sad for Punpun's dad because he didn't deserve what happened. And then when he came back to him, Punpun honestly did not want anything to do with his dad. Didn't care to write him, didn't care to see him, nothing. So when the dad does meet him, he's kind of like, whatever. And the dad leaves crying.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for the dad because the dad got fucked over so bad in the end.
Yeah. And honestly, there's a lot more in the story than what we talked about, which, I mean, it would take a lot longer on this podcast if we went over all the details,
Yes.
There's a lot of side characters that show up and stuff, but they don't really add to Punpun's story, so I really didn't care about them.
Well, the side characters, they were a part of Punpun's story because they were friends from elementary age.
Yeah, but after elementary, they don't even talk to Punpun.
Right,
and their story,
exactly.
It's like a sideline story.
But it's a good sideline story because those two friends, one them...
Okay, well, the whole thing with, the mom getting killed or whatever is kind of sad.
Yeah, and
but for the most part, it was kind of a pointless story. It didn't really impact the overall end of anything. Right. Or at least I didn't feel like it did.
Right. And, the thing is about those characters is that the two characters he was friends with in elementary school pretty much, I guess, one of his friends lost his...
Yeah. It'll take a while to get through all of this.
But it's pretty good, though.
Yeah.
But...
I thought that was a bit weird that there was that whole story, and that's really it. There's just Punpun's story with Eiko, and then there's a separate story with those two friends, and it's just those two stories.
And
also
it's
involved.
Crazy, yeah. Because this side story with the friends leads to Pegasus, who we end up finding out is this big old cult leader, and when the friends get wrapped into it, and then there's
but it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. Doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean,
don't know.
It's interesting.
I thought it was weird,
but. I recommend that if you really want to know more about this, if you're interested in it,
if you want
read
a dark story with very good art,
you gotta read it.
Yeah,
you gotta read it.
Definitely recommend it.
And I think what I really love about the series too is that when you collect the books, when you collect all the volumes in it, it shows like a cute little like side covers of the spines of Punpun, and it's really cute art. All of it's just adorable.
Yeah.
But it really, you need to read it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love this. I'm kind of sad that it's over, because we've been reading this since August.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sad that this is over now.
Yeah.
But
it was fun. It was fun reading it, fun getting to experience it. So, yeah. So, if you like Punpun, make sure you like and subscribe. If you want to hear more reviews, let us know. We are going to be doing, probably in the next episode or two, we're going to go on to Europe.
We are.
Next week, we're going to Europe.
Yeah, and then we could probably talk about Last of Us too next week.
We'll also do another. Well, probably wait till
after Europe.
The season ends. So then we'll be doing a review of The Last of Us if y'all want to hear that. So.
But tell us if y'all have read this. Tell us what you think about it. Tell us everything you think. If you haven't read it, please read it. Come back to it and tell us what you think as well, because we want to hear what y'all think as well. Because we probably missed some things that y'all caught. So. Definitely come and tell us.
And what was your favorite part in Punpun?
Yeah, who was your favorite character? Who was the character you actually related with the most? That's what I'm curious to hear.
Yeah.
But anyways, y'all have a good night. And we're excited to hear from y'all. And we'll come back to you guys, hopefully.
Very soon.
Hopefully soon. We'll be going away for about a week, but hopefully soon.